Okay guys, I'm going to show you how I make a magic wand. I start out with a block of wood like this. It's about 1.5 inches thick, and this one probably is about 16 inches long. So I'm going to take it on my bandsaw and cut some pieces like this, square, and then I'll be back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a few strips of this wood. Now I've got 3 square pieces. So what we're going to do is we're going to work with one of these. Now I need to find the center point on this end and on this end so I can stick it in my lathe. And the way I do it is I have this thing, just stick it in here like this, give it a whack, turn it 90 degrees, give it another whack, and you see it's put a crosshatch in here, and that where the lines meet is my center. I'm going to do that on both ends. So I have the same thing in here. Next I take my hole punch and just give it a little divot. That'll help position it when I actually mount it to the lathe. It's a hole punch, makes a little impression in there. Now here I'm showing you how I sharpen my tools. There's a couple different tools, and it's important to keep them sharp because they're a lot safer that way. So this is my spindle roughing gouge. This will help me take that square piece and make it round. So to sharpen it, turn on my thing here. And now my tool is sharp and ready to be used. And while I'm at it, I'm going to sharpen a couple other tools as well. I'm going to sharpen one of my spindle gouges. First thing I need to do is mount this between these two centers, and then take it from square to perfectly round, and I'm going to show you how I do that. So I stick one in here, mount this other one, cinch it up, tighten it down, and now I bring my tool rest up to my work. And I want this to be about just below center. I want to make sure every one of those corners is going to clear my tool rest. Otherwise it would go bang, 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 and wouldn't work very well. So we're about to start spinning this up. So I'm just doing it by hand now to make sure I got the right clearance. So that's about right. What's going to happen is every time this piece of wood spins around, it's going to make contact with this little tiny part of the blade, and little chips are going to come off. So I'm going to show you that now. First I'm going to turn this on, start spinning it up to speed, and it's running just about 600 RPM, so it's going around 600 times a minute, or I think that's what, 10 times a second? Is that my math right? I'm going to turn on my dust collector because it gets loud in here, and little pieces are going to start flying, and you're going to see that now. So you can see I've started to bite into these corners make on my way to making it round. So it's still pretty square, but trust me, it's going to become round. So now I want to actually move my tool rest so I can continue working on the far side, because I don't want my tool chisel tip to be too far away from this guy. So we're going to have to go down here and start rounding this part over. So again, I spin it by hand, make sure I'm clearing my tool rest, make sure everything's clamped down tight. So now, because there's that much of a gap in there, I want to move this even a little bit closer. You never want your tip of your tool to be too far away from your tool rest if you can help it. Makes it a lot easier to work this way. It gives you more leverage. You can see it's almost completely round, but there's still a flat spot here, a flat spot here. So we're going to keep going. Get there slowly. And you can see the little shavings that coming off of it as I get deeper in the wood. These nice little curly bits. When you start from the big corner, much more these smaller pieces, but they get longer and longer the deeper you get into the wood. Now if you look, this is still pretty rough surface here. So we want to smooth that out. I'll show you how I smooth that out right now so that it's perfectly soft to your hands, or as close to soft as you can get. So now that's a lot smoother. We don't need to go any smoother than that right now. You can see I was getting stuck here. There's actually a little baby knot right here. And that's harder than everything else, so I was getting stuck there. So what I would do next is I'm actually going to take this down even farther to a perfect cylinder to about 20 millimeters thick, or just under 1 inch. Because most of my magic wands, their maximum thickness is 1 inch. And how do I tell how thick my wand is? I use these calipers. And it has a millimeter mode. So I can set it, say, about 20 millimeters, and see if I can slip it over. And you can see I can't slip it over, so I got quite a bit of material to take off. So let's keep going at this and take a little bit more material off, so we get to that starting size for the magic wand. We are almost there. So we're at 22 millimeters here, and I'm going to leave it at that size for now. And actually, as I'm getting deeper into this wood, it's actually more moist, and you can see, I don't know if you can tell that it's a little bit darker. But see how much longer these shavings are getting too as you get down deeper. People who turn wood get excited about those things. Okay, so now it's completely round. I'll show you. See, we took that square piece, now made it a perfect circle. So we got rid of a lot of wood. It makes a big mess, but it kind of becomes fun. You kind of don't mind the big mess. So since we have this knot, actually, if we got a knot there, we're going to flip it around and have the knot further down this way, because I'm going to take a lot more wood off towards the bottom part of the magic wand. So I'm just cinching it back up, clamping my clamp in place. And what I like to do is have a pattern where I know I'm going to put certain features. Now, even though it's a 14-inch ruler, I actually like working with the metric system. It's a lot easier. So what I'm going to do is, with my pencil, I'm going to mark beginning of the wand at 1 centimeter, and I'm going to put the end, say, at 33 centimeters. And I want to break this wand into 3 sections. The first third is going to be where the handle is, and that'll stop at about 11 millimeters. And then, just for good measure, I like to put 2/3 of the way in case I decide to put a feature down there. Now, this is a neat way you can make a mark on your wood. I just put that pencil there. I just have a small mark, but I want that mark to go completely around. Now I have my reference lines for where things may or may not go. So you can kind of see that the handle, big enough for your hand, and the rest of the wand slowly taper down to just the very tip here. Alright, so I'm going to actually think about more what I would want this one to do and where the features I want to carve into it. So I'm going to think about it a bit and then we'll be back. Okay, so what I think I'm going to try to do is I'm going to make a ball here, a bead, sorry, around there. I want to make another bead right around here. So this is going to be a bead. This is going to be a bead. This is going to have a slope in like this. And I'm looking at this more. Yeah, I might end up wanting the bead here instead. So this will get scalloped in like this. Get a little space for a bead on the other side. First thing I'm going to do is make a little spot for where my bead is going to go. I'm going to use what's called a parting tool to make that slot. So what's going to happen is this is going to be a bead, this is going to be a bead, and this end is going to be scalloped in. And this will go down to a point. So the first thing I want to do is going to make those beads, I think, and see how they come out, in case I mess up the bead. I can redo it. So we basically have the rough shape, and I'm not going to get any more detailed on this. So I'm going to start sanding. And when I use the sand, it's pretty cool. It's actually this little hand sander. It's powered. So it makes it a lot easier to do the sanding. And I'm going to start with 100 grit sandpaper. So when you're sanding, you want to make sure you move your tool rest well out of the way, because you don't want to hit your hand on it. Next I put 120 grit sandpaper on. Now we're going to 150. Now we're at 320 grit sandpaper, and you can see this is actually full of dust from a previous sanding project. And I got this big eraser. Usually that would take a lot of sawdust off, but this piece is pretty dead. I'm going to have to use a new piece. Now this next step, it's when I start to actually add some of the finishing oil. Now this oil is a mixture of citrus oil, mineral oil, and something else. So I start by applying it with this soft cloth, and this cloth is special that if it gets caught in anything, pieces just start to rip off instead of wrapping around your finger. Just put a little bit of this on this cloth and start applying it here. You can see how much darker the wood is already. See that difference between with a little bit of finish on and what hasn't been touched yet. This really makes the wood sing. It makes it really pretty. And it's okay to use a bunch of this stuff. And I'm going to sand a little bit more too while I'm using this in between. So do a little sanding, add a little bit more, do a little bit more sanding, add a little bit more. And what happens is the resin in this stuff starts to fill in all the little rough parts that are left behind from the sanding. So we're going to continue sanding, this time with 400 grit sandpaper. You might have noticed I'm not really doing much with this bead on this side anymore. I've decided I don't really want to keep it. So the wand's just going to start there and just be like that. I think I like that design-wise much better. And then this is just the same kind of sandpaper. This is just still 400 grit sandpaper. It's just a little bit different so I can get inside these parts here. You've seen me doing it before with other grits. See, as I add this oil-soaked rag again, that shine really starts to come out. What's happened is we're removing some of the sawdust we just created. It's still sticking to the wood. You can see we have a nice deep finish on this walnut. This walnut was given to me by my wife's brother, and it's really, really pretty. I do like this little stripe in here too. So now that this is mostly done, all I need to do is part it off here, and I need to just shape this into a tip. So we're going to do that right now. So I'm going to get my tool rest set back up. Goes down here. We're just going to make this tip of this section down here small enough so it's a lot easier to cut off. You'll see what I mean. Want to go any thinner than that, and you could see it start to vibrate more as we got down there. So I'm going to part this side off a little bit more, and then we'll get a little saw out and take the rest of it off. Got my teeny tiny little saw here, so we'll start cutting off this end. There we have a wand. All I need to do is a little bit of sanding here and a little bit of sanding to refine this tip, and then we'll have a complete magic wand. There we have the completed magic wand. It's a little bit thicker than I usually go, but this might be cool for like a younger baby. Probably give this to one of my coworkers' kids. Alright guys, see ya.